Welcome to MoocLab's interview series, Life-Changing Experiences of Learning with MOOCs. My name is Carolyn McIntyre. I'm CEO of MoocLab.club, a community website connecting people to online learning. Today I'll be talking to Alberto Julián, who is a computer scientist and business development manager in telecommunications at Indra in Spain. Alberto has a degree in telecommunications engineering, and he also has an MBA, as well as having studied over 10 MOOCs to develop his knowledge further whilst working full-time. In fact, I discovered Alberto after reading his article on LinkedIn called MOOCs from a Worker's Perspective, where he shares his recommendations for full-time workers who are considering entering the MOOC world. So I thought it would be interesting to hear a little bit more about Alberto's experiences of learning with MOOCs. So over to Spain we go, where I hope Alberto is waiting for us. Hello, Alberto.
Hello, Caroline.
How are you?
Fine, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us on this interview series.
You're welcome.
Great. So I think it would be nice to start off with a little introduction of who you are, a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay. I want to give details about my background, not a lot because you said I have a degree in telecommunications and I also have an MBA. So that means that I have, let's say, quite experience in the on-campus education, right? What happened is that after working in 20 years in computer science, in several, let's say, with several profiles and in several contents, I was beginning to think that it was somehow, it was difficult for me to acquire knowledge in new fields. Let me explain just briefly which profiles and what kind of jobs I have been working in. I have been working as an analyst programmer at the beginning in research and development, also as a project manager, as an account manager for some years, as a business consultancy manager, and regarding the contents, I have been working in computer vision at the beginning with medical images treatment, and at the beginning of the World Wide Web in information retrieval, also in the Lucent Technologies microelectronics factory in Madrid in statistical process control. During 2 years, I was working for a business consultancy, a small company, in which I was doing business plans and things like this. And finally, in Indra, in the last 14 years, I've been working specifically in the IT field for telecommunications operators, doing proposals and projects and selling projects to our customers. So I think, let's say, I have quite an experience in the computer science world. Also, just from a personal perspective, to give some. The intention is to somehow to link it with the MOOC world. I'm a very curious person, but I tend to be quite inconstant. I don't know, or if I say unstable, it could can have a strange meaning. But inconstant, since I like to have, let's say, passions for things during 3-4 months, not much more. And for one of my lifelong passions is music, but inside my passion for music, I spend months, years in specific things, but finally I give up and dedicate my music time to other things. And also I have done small investigations about things that have nothing to do with IT. But finally, there was one that about micro-robotics, which had something to do partially with computer science. Because apart from being a very interesting field regarding the insect flight, for instance, in which I bought books and downloaded hundreds of files about this field. There was also a very interesting part about artificial intelligence, and I felt my knowledge was not enough for this field, and I was having the same feeling in my job. And just to finalize this, let's say this question about my background, and in my family, my mother and her parents were teachers, so I have been always interested in education and learning and so on.
Okay, great. And can you tell us how you first became aware of MOOCs and what made you decide to take one in the first place?
Yes, as I told, if you join or you merge this, let's say, inconstant way of this behavior I have, and I was also interested in the artificial intelligence phase of the microrobotics knowledge. And there are many fields about artificial intelligence. One of them is swarm intelligence, which is very related with microrobotics. And there were other things I was interested in, such as neuroscience, genetics, data science. And I was feeling that my job, which is more, let's say, it's not a technical job currently, it's much more a competencies job. I make proposals, but I'm not so, or work for projects, but not from the technical part, but from the management part. So somehow you feel that your knowledge is not enough for this. And then I decided it was time to change things, and then probably with a Google search, I'm not totally sure, I found one online course about artificial intelligence, and I decided to enter in. But at that time, I was not, I had not, let's say, a long-time view. I just wanted to follow this course for fun and see what happened.
And what was your initial reaction with studying this type of course online?
Well, when I entered this world, I felt that it was something, let's say, quite new to me, specifically in this course of Introduction to Artificial Intelligence from EDX, Berkeley X. It was a bit tough because it was it required a lot of previous background about lots of things, big O notation, graph theory, Python, which was a programming language I was not familiar with, object-oriented programming, which I was familiar, but 20 years ago, not now, and data structures, basic probability, lots of things. So it was a very interesting MOOC, but it was hard to follow. But I sort of developed, let's say, a very positive feeling about MOOCs. And then after this one, I did not enroll in any other MOOC for several months, probably because there was some hangover because it was a very stressed time because this MOOC was very intensive. But then I found another one about the secret of life, which the title is who wouldn't like to know about the secret of life? It was an introduction to biology and genetics from Eric Lander, which is one of the leaders of the human genome in MIT. And then I thought I had to develop a strategy regarding MOOCs, because I thought that it could be interesting to make a smooth combination of MOOCs and your daily job, of course, and your family as well, if you can.
Absolutely. I mean, that leads on perfectly to my next question, because you've studied a lot of MOOCs while holding a full-time job. I'm sure that wasn't easy. What were the particular difficulties that you encountered doing this?
Well, the first one is that if your job has not a very tight start time and end time, you might be working at after hours lots of time, and sometimes it happens in my job as well. So sometimes it's difficult to combine the MOOCs with my job. So there are bad weeks, but it's not a big problem. But there are, as happened to me with artificial intelligence MOOC, there are MOOCs that have requirements that you do not fulfill because just they are quite demanding, or because they are demanding for you, for your specific background. Let's say these are subjective difficulties, but there are also objective difficulties. There are many types of MOOCs, and the reason I have given up some of them are, for instance, strong inconsistencies between what they say in the information there should be in assignments and the reality. It happened to me in a bioinformatics course. I felt very bad because you were supposed to find certain information in some DNA databases, and the information was not there, so it was a bit crazy. It happened to a lot of people in this course. So there must be, let's say, a very professional attitude from the instructors in the MOOC. All other MOOCs had a boring speaker. I won't say the name of the MOOCs, but or maybe the MOOC is based on static slides, and so it's boring to follow this MOOC. Or I remember one MOOC I followed. It was, I think, 2 years ago, about drones, about the autonomous navigation of flying robots, of drones, from the Technological University of Munich, the TUM, and it was very nice, a very nice MOOC, but it had very few TAs, teaching assistants, and this is something very bad. If people makes questions in the forums and the questions are not answered, people tend to abandon the MOOC. Not every people, but the people that has problems to follow the MOOC is not going to feel engaged to the MOOC.
Absolutely, yes. And can you tell us what your main objectives are for studying MOOCs, and do you feel that you achieve those objectives?
Okay. Let's say that my main objective was having a constant training attitude, a constant learning attitude, which is something that we see more and more in companies, specifically in technological companies. Education is not something, is not a one-shot event in your life. Education is something you have to deal with during all your professional life, and MOOCs fit very well with this in companies. So let's say that my main objective is never ending. It's by definition is something that will happen for my professional life and after. And my current short-term objective is used, but it's let's say it's about machine learning in MOOCs. I'm enrolled in data science and machine learning MOOCs, and I want to let's say, change my profile, combine with neurosciences and genetics MOOCs I have followed, and do something with it. I don't know exactly what, but let's say what time prepares to me.
Great. Well done, you. Now, you obviously have quite a bit of experience of studying MOOCs while holding down a full-time job. Would you like to give us a little bit of advice? What would you say to somebody who is working full-time and who wants to start studying MOOCs? What advice would you pass on to them?
Well, I would say that MOOCs, if you abstract from the specific, let's say, the specific thing that are MOOCs, you should manage it as if you were to the gym. What do you do to go to the gym? You spare time, and you don't pretend to go to the gym 8 hours a day and just one day in the week. You go 3-4 times in the week. You spend 2 hours. With MOOCs, it's something similar. You begin planning. This is my opinion, of course. You begin planning long term, and the same with the gym. With gym, you say, I want to improve my health, and I want to weight less for Christmas or for summer. So you have long-term objectives. With MOOCs, it's the same. You should say, okay, I want to learn about this thing, and if you look for MOOCs in the consortia or in MOOC aggregators like Class Central, for instance, then you can plan long term. That is the first step I would advise. The second one would be plan short term. Regarding this, you should see for each of the MOOCs in which you are interested, see the requirements, check the requirements, and the estimated weekly effort as well. And well, my personal advice is, if you want to be successful in the MOOC, multiply by 2 the estimated weekly effort, because the number that they used to, the figure that used to give in the courses is not. Usually, it's a bit optimistic. So I personally take MOOCs that don't require much more than 10 hours a week, because 10 hours a week, usually between 6-8 hours a week, which translates in 12-14 hours a week, which is quite enough. 2 hours a day, every day is enough, I think. And of course, I take my own notes with slides and captions and screenshots. Definitely, you have to develop your online learning style. In my case, if I'm interested in the video, I download it, because for space reasons that those videos may be removed in the future. It happened to me with some of the first MOOCs I have been enrolled. They are not anymore in any cloud and anywhere. So, and overall, you have to be kind with yourself. You have to think that MOOCs are going to be something funny for you. You are going to learn, but it has to be funny. If you are lucky enough to have a work in which you are having fun all the time, probably you don't need MOOCs. But if you feel that you should have some fun and learn new things, go for it.
And would you say that your family accepted the time that you gave to MOOCs on top of the time you spent at work?
Well, it's difficult to combine. It happened the same with when I was enrolled in the MBA, in the executive MBA, because MBAs as such usually are, at least the ones I know, are for people that has time to dedicate, let's say, the whole week to them. But executive MBAs are planned for people that it's working, which is the one I was following. And at that time, you work, you go to the classes on Fridays afternoon and Saturday mornings, during 6 hours each of them, and then you had to work on assignments the whole week, and it was a crazy year, and it was difficult for my family. And with MOOCs, I didn't want to have the same stress, and I wanted to be constant, but not to have the least problems with my family time because of them.
Great. Okay. And from your experience of studying lots of different types of MOOCs, do you have a preferred type, and what is that?
Well, yes, I can tell about several, let's say, dimensions or points of view. The first thing that must be interesting for you when you choose a MOOC is content, of course. And in my case, usually at the beginning at least, I was looking at Harvard, MIT courses. So it's the main or the company in which or the consortium in which they have MOOCs is EDX. But sometimes you can be, let's say, consortia agnostic. You have, for instance, MOOCs from Berklee School of Music in Boston, which are both in EDX and Coursera. And there are also other universities such as Georgia Tech that it's quite agnostic regarding consortia. So my first let's say leading point is that the content should be okay for me. Then if the content is okay, or if I have more or less the same content in two MOOCs, the consortia dimension counts, of course. And I personally like a lot EDX, but Coursera has more offering. And there are also smaller consortia which very interesting things. Well, I wouldn't say they are absolutely small in an absolute way, but compared to EDX of Coursera, they are. For instance, FutureLearn has very specialized MOOCs. I followed one about Parkinson's disease, and also there are other consortia like MediaX, which is a Spanish consortia from Telefónica. I think the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia is also involved, and Banco Santander, and they are facing the Spanish and Latin America world. So there are consortia that are very strong. Another one is Udacity, for instance, which is more, let's say, more focused to self-paced MOOCs, which is the third dimension I wanted to talk about. Fixed date versus self-paced MOOCs. For full-time workers, my recommendation is to follow fixed date. Well, it's fixed date in that the lesson is going and the assignments are expected to be fulfilled in 1 or 2 weeks, but it does not mean that you have to be, but I'm telling this for the audience. It doesn't mean that you have to be online at a certain time. It's not. You have the freedom to follow the lesson during 1 week, 2 weeks. But the interesting thing is that you feel inside the learning community, which I think is one of the interesting things about MOOCs. And also the teaching assistant supports and so on is much, and the help from other students is much better if you are in fixed date MOOCs. But also Udacity, I know it's fighting hard to have teaching assistants, even if you are a self-paced learner. But usually, if you want this kind of support, I think, I'm not sure, maybe you have other information, Udacity makes you pay for this support.
Absolutely, you only get that support if you subscribe. Yeah.
Okay. The thing with Udacity, and I can understand that there is people that prefers this, is a completely professional consortium. It's made of companies. The courses are from companies such as Google. I think Facebook has some MOOCs as well. Apple, definitely, and other companies. There are also universities. And I understand there is people that feels better if they are free to follow the MOOC at their own pace. But I personally prefer fixed date courses. And I have, at this point, I have to mention that Coursera, how do you say it in English, Coursera?
Coursera, yeah.
Coursera, okay.
Yeah.
Coursera had I think 1 year ago, they wanted to combine the fixed date, let's say, approach with the self-paced, and they began to, probably for reasons of well, it doesn't matter, but they began to provide on-demand courses, MOOCs, 1 year ago. The same MOOCs that had been provided fixed date, then were broadcasted self-paced. And currently, they know they have slightly changed this to have somehow like monthly sessions, because they felt that people in the self-paced mode felt somehow disconnected. Yeah. Because if you don't have a lot of, you are not very strict with yourself, it's easier to let you flow with the real fixed paced or with the fixed dates, or the last on-demand modality of Coursera with monthly sessions. It's easier to let you flow with someone else has decided you have to do on the week or in 2 weeks, rather than having to manage yourself every week, because it's easier to say, and when you work full time and you have some workload, it's easier to say, okay, I will follow the self-paced lesson next week because there is nothing that pushes me to do it this week. So I personally feel that for full-time workers, it's better self-paced. Fixed date courses are better.
Yeah, some great advice there, and I think it's true that people tend to succeed better if they're part of a community, a learning community, rather than being completely isolated, which the self-paced courses obviously create a very isolated environment. Yeah. And moving on to certificates with MOOCs, I'd be interested to hear what your views are with them. Do you choose to gain certificates, or is that not important for you?
You mean, I guess, verified certificates?
Yes. Yes.
If you are, I prefer to pay or not to pay. Is definitely
that's the question.
Yeah, because I'm in the pointing this difference, because EDX provides you certificates anyway, but if you want for them to look verified certificates, you have to pay. But there are companies that, such as Udacity, I think they don't provide certificates at all if you don't subscribe, if you don't pay for it, right? So it depends on the company. So if I'm very interested on the MOOC, and especially interested for it to appear in LinkedIn, then I pay. I haven't done it for a lot yet, but I have done it for one this summer which was let's say it was scalable machine learning, and then recently it was from EDX, and recently I did it as well with one from Coursera, which was introduction to machine learning. If I have some MOOC just for fun, which is about something which is not related to my professional interests, let's say something about music, for instance, and I feel it's not so important for this consortia to pay, then I don't pay. But my impression is that more and more consortia are looking for ways to not to oblige you to pay, but for you, they look for interesting added points, extra features in MOOCs that for which you are willing to pay. Of course, a consortium such as EDX, which is completely from the educational environment and has in the vision that they are willing to spread knowledge in as much as they can. I would be very surprised if they oblige you to pay. But for instance, as we were saying before, Udacity is they let you learn things, but most of the interesting things you have to subscribe and pay.
Yes, so it's two different business models, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that the breaking point for full-time workers is that if you are interested in having this verified certificate in your let's say LinkedIn profile, for instance, and companies appreciate this, then more and more people will be willing to pay. It will be another, let's say, modification point that will push for people to pay for certificates.
How do employers in Spain view MOOC certificates? Are they recognized? Do they know about them? Do they accept them?
I would say not too much. In fact, inside my company, which is 40,000 people company, which is quite big, I had a couple of meetings 1-2 years ago when I was in the MOOC hype, and I was very passionate about it, and they thought it was interesting but difficult to combine with the education strategy they had. So it's as many other things is a big change. So it's difficult for them. And inside the let's say, for instance, the headhunters, I'm not sure they have a clear idea of what are MOOCs and what do they mean as an added feature for a worker. There is another company I wanted to make. My personal view is that for MOOCs are okay for technical knowledge, and for let's say business competencies probably is more difficult to provide them on MOOCs. When I was on the executive MBA, for instance, we had physical teams with people from different company environments, human resources, IT, or marketing, or whatever. And then your knowledge was enriched with people from different profiles. With MOOCs, you could do something else, but something similar. But when you are working, let's say, a weekend with someone which is quite close to you, and then you are learning from them, it's easier to do it physically than on. And this is for business competences. For technical competences, I think it's easier to do it on MOOCs.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that leads on quite nicely to my next question, which I wanted to ask you how you see the difference between traditional campus-based learning and learning in a MOOC environment. What would you say are the main differences between the two?
Okay, but as I said, what I think is more interesting from the MBA, apart from, let's say, when I say technical, it doesn't mean necessarily about computer science. For me, learning about marketing could be, in some sense, technical learning. Okay, and you can do it with MOOCs. I know that you have an interview in MoocLabs about zero cost MBA, and in this sense it's okay. But let's say the business abilities and the network and so on is much more difficult in online than on campus, let's say. But having said that, I will just list some of the other MOOCs I have followed. As I said, one was the artificial intelligence from Berkeley in California. Another one from genetics MOOC from MIT. Bioimaging and neuroscience divided in 3 modules, one in 2013, 14, and 15 currently, neuroscience one from Harvard University. Bioimaging one from Queensland in Australia, signal processing one from Rice University, I think is in Texas, machine learning one from Washington University, and audio signal processing one from Pompeu Fabra and the Stanford University. And the other one was the Parkinson disease from, I think was Birmingham, I think, from Futureland in the United Kingdom. I don't think there is nobody that can physically attend to all of those courses, and you can do it online. Of course, I would like to go to all of these universities, at least to 2 or 3 of them, but it will take a lot of time to do this, and it will be very time and money expensive. So it's online learning gives you the opportunity to do this, all of this from home. So it's, or from your job. So it's okay.
Yes, I think the whole MOOC world provides a fantastic opportunity which people not very many years ago didn't have access to. So it's a great thing. Yeah. And how do you see the future of MOOCs? Where do you think this type of learning is going to go? Okay,
let's speculate a bit. From the business perspective, thinking about a company, I would like, and I feel that it's possible, that the MOOCs may make easier the transition from universities to business. Thinking that business should modify the way they behave. For instance, I have inside my company in Indra, I will be attending a physics. It's not on campus because it's more or less education company, and I will be attending 3 years during the following weeks. Complete day spent for training. It's okay, but my feeling after having followed so many MOOCs is that it's better to spend 2 days each day during the 2 hours a day. Sorry, not 2 days. 2 hours a day during the whole week, rather than being the 8 hours in a place, because you learn better if you combine it with your job, and it's not so disruptive. Okay, so from a business point of view, I think that MOOCs will mean the smoother transition from university to business, because you will be following your, let's say, the same way of learning that you had in university, which is 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week, combined with other things, and this is how I think things should happen in business. And inside the education world, there was, when the MOOCs hype began, let's say 3 years ago, there was people that said that MOOCs could make the traditional university disappear. I don't think it's going to happen. But on the other hand, if you think, for instance, in my degree, telecommunications, you have 4 classes teaching algebra or basic calculus, things that are easy to be provided, or physics. If physics is not taught, let's say by Richard Feynman, for instance, it's taught by a teacher which is probably not so much interested in teaching you physics, but in the PhD he's working. He's obliged to teach physics just because it's something in his contract. Probably he's not very motivated for this physics course, and it's better to have just one motivated MOOC course about physics, which are very good ones from MIT or other universities, and then just, let's say, have the physical class just for doubts, for problems, for things like this. But the basic knowledge could be provided through MOOCs, even on campus education. And for instance, I can mention the fundamentals of neuroscience module 3 that I'm currently following from Harvard is provided online and on campus simultaneously. It's an interesting experience. And finally, not about the university world, but about school, I feel that MOOCs can change the way that education is performed in school. Just as I said before about universities, it could happen the same in schools. The boys and girls could learn in MOOCs before the classroom, and they shouldn't dedicate the whole classroom just to follow, just to write down what the teacher is saying without having enough time to think about it. This way, each of the students could stop the video and make it rewind to see if he or she understands what the teacher is saying. And I think it's much more intelligent from the growth of the children.
Yes, this form of blended learning, I think, is something which is gradually beginning to take on with institutions. Certainly universities are beginning, as you said, to use this format.
Is it happening in the UK? Because in Spain, I don't see it yet.
No, I mean, not that I'm aware of. I think it's something which, like often is the case, it's developing in America, and then it will slowly move over here. MOOCs in the UK are still a very well hidden secret. Not very many people are aware of them, and institutions are beginning to provide their own MOOCs, most of which are through the FutureLearn platform that you're familiar with. But it's something that is still very small here. But it is developing, and I think we're always a few years behind the United States. So it will come, and I think it will be used, as you described, it will be used by institutions for within their curriculum to use MOOCs in a form of blended learning.
Okay.
Which is a great thing, I think.
Hope to see it in Spain.
I'm sure it will come. I mean, Spain has quite a big market for MOOCs in Europe. So you are one of the pioneers on the European continent. And
we also have the LATAM connection. So it's the South America connection, which is pushes a lot of things here. So
absolutely, you have a very large audience potentially. So there is a lot to be done, I think, in the Spanish language, definitely. And can I ask you, if you were to create your own MOOC, What would you do it on, and how would you make it effective?
Good question. I don't know what would it be about, but what I can say regarding this is that first it would be for children, I think, because for me, it's, my son is 13 years old, almost 14, and for me it's very sad to see that there are lots of subjects in which he's not having fun, and I have seen both sides of the coin. When I was at university, for instance, there were lots of subjects which were not, let's say, they didn't look interesting, but when I revised them in MOOCs, they turned to be very interesting, just because they had the applied view, they put examples, they put it's another view. And of course, regarding this, I would highlight several points that I would take care with to have the MOOC interesting, which are, for instance, have some kind of gamification. For instance, EDX compared to Coursera, for instance, provides you with progress area in which you look how are you doing in your assignments and all the MOOC, and it's very satisfying to see that the bars are very high, and when you have a right answer to a question, you have this green big check, and I'm sure they have thought about this before. And definitely I would provide lots of animation through videos, images, of course slides with animations, or of course the Khan Academy style of let's say doing the slide as you are talking has proved to be very successful. But I think part of the success is not only the Khan Academy style, but also the speaker. The voice of this person is very nice, and it's very attractive to follow these courses. And the same happened with another course, which is radically different, apparently, from the style, which was the course about introduction to biology from Eric Lander. It was a classic master class style. In fact, it was recorded in the real class, but he's someone that dominates the drama concepts of the class. He sometimes was looking at the physical audience, and sometimes was looking at the camera. Of course, it was expensive because there were more than one camera, and there were physical cameraman doing zooms and so on. But it was from the point of view of drama, was something to learn about, because sometimes he finished the lessons looking at the camera and saying, "What do you think about this? Okay, we are going to solve it in next class." And then you are going to your job just saying, "I'm anxious to follow the next lesson." So it's the drama part. I think it's very important. And last point I wanted to mention about how to make a MOOC effective is it doesn't matter if you have 100 or 1,000 people in the classroom, but you have to think that you need not only the 3 to 4 instructors that you usually have in a MOOC, but also a good group of community TAs, of teacher assistants, because a lot of the support and a lot of the knowledge is not going to be, let's say, from top to down, but it's going to be transversal from the same. Is going to be from the students themselves. Some of them will be more gifted in this subject, or they may be even experts who want to refresh, and they accept to be community TAs. And I don't know if there is a payment in this role, but probably most of them accept to do this just to contribute to the collaborative learning.
Yes, peer learning is a very strong element of the learning process. You're absolutely right. And in your view, Alberto, what new and exciting things are happening around MOOCs at the moment?
I can give you a couple of things I think are interesting. I would like to know if you have some other things, because I know you are also, you can probably have a complementary view. One thing I thought it was missing at the beginning. When I began, it was 2012, and most of the MOOCs were, let's say, very generic. And inside, let's say, Coursera, you could find many MOOCs about the same subject, which I think is inefficient. But now you can, things have happened, of course, if you have, let's say, a good community of students, you can challenge the let's say the content and provide much more specific courses. I remember the one I mentioned about Parkinson's disease. I would say is quite specific, and this is the kind of things that probably at the beginning it was difficult to do, because if there is not a lot of people in the MOOC world, it's not so easy to do. But now you can do this kind of experiments. And also another very interesting thing that I was missing at the beginning was having some kind of specialization or there are several names for this. Aggregate courses that have a meaning or some kind of flow in the same, and synchronize them. For instance, in EDX you have the series. There is people that call them credentials. In Coursera they are called specializations. The one that I'm following now is a Coursera specialization about machine learning. Udacity calls them nano degrees. Iversity calls them bundles, and I think it is possible to give a further step, which is that they could be not for just one entity. For instance, the machine learning one is from Washington, the University of Washington, and that's all. Just one university, but you could do it cross-entity. I remember there was a course about mobile applications development, which was shared about a couple of universities. You could leverage in this and in online teaching. Do you know any experience about these, let's say, cross-entity specializations?
What, from courses provided by several institutions put into one specialization? Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, in the same consortia, but different.
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. But something that's emerging as well, which I'm sure you're aware of, is institutions beginning to provide credits using MOOCs.
Yeah.
I know, for example, on edX, the Arizona State University are about to launch a credit-bearing course which allows the students to study MOOCs initially before they enroll on campus, obviously reducing the costs. And there are initiatives on Coursera as well of this type. So I think this is something which universities are certainly looking at. It's still at an experimental stage to see the results they get, but I think it's something that could potentially be very exciting and would provide university level education at a much lower cost, which is what MOOCs were supposed to be achieving. So I think that's something to watch and something which could potentially be very exciting.
Yeah, I just remembered my daughter, who just entered Universidad Autónoma here in Madrid, was suggested to follow a MOOC from Universidad Autónoma in EDX. I don't remember if it was about chemistry or something like this, and she would get credits for this. So it's
okay.
Things are beginning to change, probably very slow, but there are good signs about the future of MOOCs.
Absolutely, and I think as soon as people start gaining something that is recognized, this problem with the completion rates will drastically improve. And just to finish off, Alberto, can you tell us a little bit about what you are currently studying, if you are, and what you intend to continue studying with MOOCs?
Okay, more or less I told something, but I was following that scalable machine learning from EDX of University of California at Berkeley. It was in July, and part of August as well. September I followed one from university that I had begun twice, and I finally finished it. I didn't have access to the final project because I didn't subscribe for it. Did I say the name? I don't remember. It was Introduction to Data Science. And in October, I followed Foundations of Machine Learning from Coursera, University of Washington, which is part of 6 courses of specialization. And this course is going to be followed by one in December, another one in January, February. So it's an intensive one. And in the meantime, before the second course of this machine learning specialization begins, I'm following the third module of the fundamentals of neuroscience from Harvard University. So it's, let's say, a very intensive time from myself. And at the beginning of the year, I was not following so many, but now they have concentrated.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. And thank you very, very much, Alberto, for joining us in this interview series. It was very interesting hearing your perspectives on MOOCs from a full-time worker's perspective. And I wish you all the best in the future.
Okay, thanks you to give me this opportunity to talk about this, which is definitely something, it's a passion for myself.
Well, that certainly came across in the interview, and I'm sure it'll be very inspirational for people listening to you later.
Okay, hope so.
Okay, great to meet you, Alberto, and hopefully we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.